Welcome to How to Effectively Communicate Your Science, brought to you by the Office of Faculty Development e-learning portal in collaboration with the Office of External Affairs at Weill Cornell Medicine. You know your science is important, your colleagues and patients know that your science is important, but how do we convince others, including non-scientists and the media, that your science is as important as it truly is? The goal of this module is to share with you a high-yield overview of some science communication basics. Before we begin, let's give a brief overview of how the Office of External Affairs works at Weill Cornell. External Affairs is a department that serves the mission of the institution by engaging the public and alumni through fundraising, communications, and marketing, as well as advocacy programs. The strategic programming of the department communicates the terrific work that our faculty does in an effort to enhance and protect our reputation, increase our visibility, and highlight your achievements. There are three programmatic divisions within External Affairs. The first is development, which includes fundraising and alumni relations. The second is communications and marketing, which is comprised of editorial, multimedia, traditional and social media, and both enterprise branding and physician organization marketing. And the third is government and community affairs, which serves as a liaison with government agencies, civic organizations, community leaders, and residents throughout New York City. And importantly, within the communications and marketing division, the media team facilitates and manages interactions with traditional media, such as television, newspaper, radio, and online outlets across the entire institution. For a comprehensive listing and more information about the team, download a copy of a contact sheet in the resources section of our website. Now, let's hone in on some high-yield tips on how to communicate your science. Showing the public the value of your work may mean connecting them in ways that you haven't thought about previously, such as through anecdotes about your own life or your professional experiences. The cornerstone of communications is to know your audience. You're speaking to the general public and have to understand who they are, what their prior knowledge on the subject is going to be, and what their prior interest is. You have to be able to communicate with the public at their level so they can understand what they should take away from your work. Let's review the 4 perennial obstacles that need to be addressed when discussing your work. The first is confusion. Science is naturally complicated. It's very easy for people to have a hard time following the science itself. The second obstacle is boredom. If they aren't sufficiently engaged, they start to gloss over and disengage from the story. The third problem is, even if you've managed to put the science into clear and interesting terms, people simply have a lot of other things to do with their time, and you have to deal with those other priorities. More recently, the fourth obstacle is distrust that has emerged. Even if the message is clear and understandable, there may be something that stops people from trusting that information. One way to counteract this is to tell stories. Stories are the most effective way of communicating information because we care about stories, because we engage with stories, and we remember stories. Also, when a journalist is coming to you and they want to tell a story about your science, what are they looking for? It needs to be new and have novelty. So you can't just tell people, this is the 3rd cellular receptor that we've identified in this field and we're very excited. This brings us to 17 new receptors in this category. Your story has to be interesting. It has to, at least in some way, have impact for the audience. It has to be clear to the audience that the news will affect them. An example would be a scientist looking for cofactors that affect the binding of serotonin receptors. It's great that you've made progress, but that's not something that most members of the public are going to be able to engage with. But if you cast this in terms of, we've made important discoveries that may actually pay off in terms of treatment of depression in the future, now you're speaking their language. You're giving them something to care about. Another important thing to consider is that the media have their own constraints. News today moves at a blistering pace. With TV, they have something new to show to engage their audience and counteract boredom or distractions. Watch how rapidly they change from shot to shot. A general TV segment is 3 to 4 minutes with 10-second sound bites. Can you describe the main finding of your research in less than 10 seconds? If you can't, your ability to get your work into the news is hugely compromised. These interviews require concise, bullet point statements. With print or online reporters, remember, they have editors who might be pressuring them to beat other outlets to the story. They might be rushed to get your comments. Message sessions and media training from the External Affairs Media team can help prepare you for all types of media, reporters, and interview scenarios. So, these are some of the things that journalists are looking for. But what are they not looking for? They're not looking for completeness. There's a wealth of information and detail that you have to report in your published work. But this isn't feasible when speaking to most reporters. Before you talk to the reporter, spend time trying to think about how your work could be told as a quick, short story, like a detective story. Because you're the detective, you are trying to solve a puzzle or a mystery and turn your scientific story into 3 short lines. In the first sentence, what is the problem or mystery that you are working on? And the key thing, it has to be a problem or a mystery that the audience would immediately care about. The second sentence is the new thing you've done. What's the new clue that you've discovered? The new answer that you found? And finally, the third part is, what is the implication or impact of your discovery? How does that discovery advance us? 1, 2, 3. Mystery, solution, implications. Now, that's a story. If you think about ways of talking about research in those terms, you are already a long way towards being able to successfully communicate that to the reporter, who can then in turn successfully convey that to a wider audience of readers or viewers.